but we all felt so entitled to her life, to her privacy, to her like person, that we didn't even view her as a human anymore. She was just a way for people to make money.
Seen it already, and if you didn't, I don't know what you're doing. Britney Spears documentary.
It's so good. So if you have not watched it, it's on Hulu. It's done by the New York Times, so all of the reporting is like really sound.
Yeah.
To give you like a quick TLDR of what is going on in Britney Spears' life, for 12 years, ever since Britney was put under a temporary psychiatric hold in Los Angeles, her father, Jamie, who we don't like, has held conservatorship over her estate, business affair, and finances, which basically just means he controls her life and she does not have the agency to make her own decisions. As of right now, Britney Spears is currently refusing to work again until her father is permanently removed from the equation. And there's been a lot of media attention surrounding this Free Britney movement for a very long time, but I feel like this is the first time I've really seen it become so mainstream. Yeah, like there have been kind of conversations around it. So like I knew a little bit going in. I don't know how much you knew going into the documentary.
I knew as probably as much as you did because you and talked about it a lot. And yeah, I mean, to us, it was mainstream. But having something done by the New York Times like this it is in the public consciousness. My mom will see it in the New York Times. And this will, just like that fucking Pornhub article that Christoph, whatever the fuck, wrote. And that's what got people to make a change. I think there's going to be a lot more attention here. And hopefully she will be able to get out of this whack. The situationship. So conservatorships are usually reserved for the elderly. So who can't take care of themselves.
Yeah, they're people. Conservatorships are typically placed over people who do not have the mental wherewithal to make decisions for themselves. And basically, at the time of this legal decision making 12 years ago, they, were looking at Britney, who amid a divorce and what looked like from the outside just like a series of mental breakdowns, shaving her head, fighting the paparazzi,
like with the umbrella,
and
driving with her baby in her lap, all of that was like so back to back.
It just looked like she was in a bad space. But what this documentary does, I think, really well is take a critical look at how we as a society failed her, and we're responsible for her downfall. And profited off it in a way that is like and continue to profit off of it. They talk about this conservatorship as a business model.
Yeah. So at a certain point, her dad, who's just like a money hungry motherfucker cocksucker.
Beautiful.
I don't really like
such a way with words.
I don't like calling people cocksuckers, but he's a fucking cocksucker.
Yeah, he's someone who was not present in her life until the opportunity arose for him to be like, oh, I can control it.
Yeah, and people who grew up with Britney, because she started performing at a very young age, like they attest to how Jamie Spears only ever cared about money. And he was like, Britney's going to buy me a boat when she's older. Actually, you're going to ruin her goddamn life.
Yeah.
How embarrassing for him. Now everyone can like see the truth. So at a certain point, Britney has become very capable. She's mentally well. As the documentary shows. And then at a certain point, the conservatorship was like, okay, you know what? Now that Britney is making a lot more money and she's actually well, the lawyer and Jamie Spears deserve more money because she's making more money. So it's like, no, that's not the point of a conservatorship.
Yeah. So, and there's also an argument to be made that during the time of the original implementation of the conservatorship, she tried to retain legal counsel on her own. And that lawyer who she talked to said that he believed her to be mentally fit and didn't think that she should be under a conservatorship. So I think it is important to say, like, I don't think she was ever in a space where she couldn't make her own decisions, and she's basically a prisoner to her father and the legal team. Her father, who when he gets to argue now, gets to use her money to hire his help.
Yeah, so fucked.
I want to talk a little bit about less of the like legalities about it, but more of like the society choices that we made and how we profited off of her.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest things that this documentary talks about is the role that the tabloids and paparazzi played in kind of her light. And I also think more relevantly to this podcast, I want to talk about the way that we put a pressure on Britney Spears to be the virgin in our narrative. Where would you like to start?
Well, first I just want to say, and I didn't really look into this because I don't think there is information out there, but it's just very bizarre that the mother, Lynn Spears, was not in charge of all this, because when dealing with parents and children, the court usually sides with the mother. So it's just very bizarre. And they said something in the documentary about threatening to take away custody of the kids. And so Britney may have been forced into a lot of this as like being blackmailed that she wouldn't be able to have her children. So she's just like, okay, whatever, take my money. That's what I gathered.
Lynn wrote a book, and she's very much at fault as well, from what I understand.
Of like wanting money?
Aren't
they divorced?
Well, yes, Lynn and Jamie are separated, but I think in terms of Britney's well-being, I think that Lynn is equally responsible for not taking care of her daughter and for kind of selling her out. I know there's a point in the book where Britney was doing like a show of some sort before she was on the Mickey Mouse Club. And Britney wanted to stop doing the show. She was like, I'm tired. I need a break. This is how Lynn tells the story. And she's like, and so I took her out from that show so she could like go have that break she needed. But in reality, Lynn was just moving her over to Mickey Mouse Club to like continue to like have her work.
Let's talk about the paparazzi and that psycho who Britney got pissed off at and beat his car with the umbrella.
Yeah.
So he comes in. I don't know his name.
He had been following Britney since like the advent of her career, and the paparazzi had this really strange relationship with her where they really believed that she needed them, that they were part of her continuing her success, and that they were part of this community that cared about her. They were like, she needed us just as much as we needed her. She loved us, like, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just so delusional to hear him speak about it.
Guys, I think that Britney was nicer to paparazzi than maybe the average celebrity, where she'd be like waving to them, whatever. And they mistook that for like genuine, like, I care about you. And so this guy is like, look, Britney never said to leave us alone. And the interviewer is like, how about that time when she said, leave me alone? And he says, right, well, she said to leave her alone for that day. She didn't say forever.
Right. And also that night that they got that money shot where she had recently shaved her head and she was trying to go see her kids, and Kevin Federline was not letting her into the home. He's telling this story with like a weird sense of fondness about it. Where he was like, and like painting himself as like this guy who just wanted to help.
Yeah.
He was like, I heard there was no one else around her. And mind you, at the time, a photo of Britney, especially a photo of Britney doing something crazy, was going for millions of dollars.
Yeah. Just a photo could go for $1 million.
Yeah.
So like the other ones.
And he was like, he's saying how he's like, I got her alone. It was just me and one other guy. And like, I went up to her and I was so kind. I was like, I just want a few photos. I just want to ask a few questions.
And then I'll leave you alone.
And he was doing her a favor.
And this is right after she shaved her head, like that night.
Exactly. Or it was like, it was recently after. I don't think it was that same night. And then she understandably is like, get the fuck away from me. Like, I am like dealing with shit right now. And she goes crazy. And he's like, and I of course got the money shot. And it's like, if you genuinely cared about that person, it wouldn't have been about the money shot. You would have given her space. But we all felt so entitled to her life, to her privacy, to her like person, that we didn't even view her as a human anymore. She was just a way for people to make money, like a thing to poke fun at.
Yeah, and I've heard paparazzi talk about this in the way that in the Kardashian connection, where they think like this is their job. Just like a doctor has to do his job, the paparazzi have to be intrusive to get that money shot because that's their purpose here in this life. Like, get another job.
Well, and in a really wonderful way, social media has killed the paparazzi game because we no longer need them to get shots into their inside life. Like, celebrities are doing that all on their own. But I'm glad you brought up Kim Kardashian because it segues nicely into a topic I want to talk about, wherein in addition to believing we had access to Britney Spears, we also, when she was, 17, 18, 19, 20, held her to this crazy standard of being such a role model in a way that I don't think we hold men to the same standard.
Absolutely not.
And during an interview with Diane Sawyer, she, was played a clip wherein a woman was like, if I could, I would shoot Britney Spears. Like, she's terrible. She's a terrible role model for my kids.
Britney's response.
Well, and Britney's response reminded me a lot of Kim's response when people were criticizing her for being a bad mother. And she's basically like, it's not my job to raise your kid.
Yeah. Britney was like, I'm not babysitting your child. And she was like, it's so sad that she said that.
Yeah.
Like, and she goes, ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. Because, like, what else do you say, you know? And I think in that same interview, people, and in other interviews, Britney was constantly being asked, like, oh, what's the topic we want to talk about? Oh, your breasts. Oh, we want to talk about, hey, are you a virgin right now? Like, oh, we want to talk about your sexuality. Even in that interview that they showed at the beginning of the documentary where she's, like, 8 years old and, like, a 50-year-old man is like, don't you like men? And she's like, no, I think they're mean. And he's like, well, what about me? And it's like, that's disgusting. That man should be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people were tweeting now, and they're so right. Just if this was happening now, if Britney was starting her career at this age, Twitter, social media would be exploding.
Oh, we'd be pissed.
Yeah, it would not fly.
No.
And we can see, like, with Demi Lovato, we did treat her poorly when she was younger, but as her fans got older and matured more, we've taken more care for her when she does go to rehab and shit like that. So luckily now we are apologizing to Britney.
Yeah. I hope that, you know, as we said, something like this being in the New York Times means that more people outside of just, like, the, like, queer feminist online media spaces are going to be talking about it, because now it's reaching our parents because the New York Times did it.
Yeah.
Which is great. And hopefully it can lead to the end of this conservatorship, which seems unlikely. I know the one woman who was like, of all the conservatorships I've seen, I've never seen anyone get out of it.
Yeah. So this is a really bizarre one, though.
The other thing I keep seeing online right now is the accountability of Justin Timberlake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I have maybe a controversial opinion on. And that, like, absolutely.
You always do.
And that, like, absolutely what he did is shitty. But he was also just as much a kid. And I think he was kind of put into this position of being, like, the bad boy. And, like, yeah, I think he's a piece of shit. But I don't think he's as complicit as, like, the interviewers and the adults, like Jay Leno and, you know, everyone else who was kind of putting her in this, like, terrible position of having to be the perfect virgin, the perfect girl.
Yeah. He ousted her and joked that he did have sex with her, and, you know, he was probably under a lot of pressure to, like...
Yeah, and basically was like, oh, why did this end? Because she cheated on me and, like, ran a smear campaign against her.
Yeah. I know that they did make up. I looked up a little bit about...
You did?
Yeah, their relationship, like, when she posts about him sometimes, and, like...
in the denim outfit?
No, like, when he puts out a new song, she'll be like, great job, and they comment on each other's stuff. So yeah, they were kids. So much time has passed. Yeah. You're right. I don't think that's controversial. He was just a kid, but we all now want to make up for lost time and blame people.
We're looking for people to blame, and I think look at her dad, look at her parents. Like,
yeah,
I think we see this so much with child stars, where it's like when they have nobody looking out for them, that's when this shit happens. And, like, especially when you have parents who are just trying to profit off the kids, like, it is really just skin crawly.
Yeah. What it seemed like to me, the most value that I got out of the documentary, because we did know a lot about what was going on, was the analysis of her eerie Instagram posts, and then also the interviews that they put in throughout it of her early career, where she did have so much control over everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, the reason I'm successful is because I do have control, and I get to call the shots and everything. And as soon as you lose it, that's when you lose yourself. And then when they analyze her posts, it's just like the thing about loving Elsa, because it's about two sisters, and one goes to
trapped in a castle, basically. Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's move on.
Again, with all things we talk about on this podcast, big recommend for this.
And it's just an hour and 15.
Yeah, it's a short episode.
And
it's good. And if you guys go on deep dives, tell us what you find out.
Yeah.